we are back live at the Baltimore Whitman Coin Expo, and we are joined by another special guest. We are very pleased to have somebody with quite the resume in hand. He is currently the president of Mid-America Rare Coins in Lexington, Kentucky. He is a past president of the ANA, past governor, and also is the senior editor for the Redbook with Whitman, as well as a couple other really cool books that I'm sure we're going to talk about. Please give a warm Coin Show welcome to Jeff Garrett.
Jeff, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for coming by.
I'm super happy to do it. One of my favorite coin shows.
So how has the show been here? Have you been?
Well, it's been, the June show is a little on the soft side because a lot of people are on vacation and things. And this show has been a buzz since they let the public in. It's been, lines here for the U.S. Mint release. And we've had people coming up wanting to buy coins. It's been super active. You look around the bourse floor, there's a buzz today.
That's exactly right. I'm seeing it. And that's the fun part about us sitting here is we get to just kind of look out over the entire land and we see everything that's going on and we get a feel for it too. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's been a banging little show and everybody seems to be having a good time. So selling coins and the public looks happy. They're interested walking around looking at the Whitman booth over here with all the different books in it, and the grading companies have been really busy over there. So
yeah, it's really good.
Yep.
Lots of happy people milling around. So let's see. You have the new version of the Redbook. It's going to be released.
Well, the Redbook now, they've moved up production a little bit. As you know, Certified Coin Dealer Newsletter bought Whitman Publishing about a year and a half ago or so. And there was quite a transition because the book had been, how it had been made for decades, essentially. And I used to do all the pricing for it. And now it's, with John Feigenbaum owns it, he's doing the pricing is coming from the Gray Sheet organization. And the next Red Book, we spent a lot of time, which is my job shifted, to doing more special content. So the new Red Book that will come out in probably March or April of next year, it just went to press today. Matter of fact, I think they hit the send button later tonight. And next year's Red Book will be a lot of surprises. It's going to, John, for a long, long time, the Whitman organization were afraid to change the Red Book because it was such a successful book and had been around forever. John has he's definitely different on that. As you'll notice, Gray Sheet's no longer gray.
Right. We were talking about the fact that the Red Book is one of those books that for about 25 years they were just exactly the same on your shelf.
Yeah.
They were all
and one of the pieces of advice that we've always given is it doesn't really matter what your Red Book is. Well, that changes this year.
That changes. It's going to be different. And I plan on putting a lot of new content. One major content's going to be different this year is California Fractional Gold. We instead of 2 pages, now it's going to be like 8 pages. We're going to list them all by Breen Gilio numbers. So every Cal Gold piece now will be listed individually, which is a big improvement.
That's awesome.
So the new Red Book is going to have a lot more. So I'm lucky now. I don't have to worry about grinding out on spreadsheets on pricing. I can devote it now to creative content, and I think the content we'll make sure every year's Red Book you'll really want to get it because it'll be different than last year.
Yeah, and we talked to John a little bit about this too, but about some of the online supplements to the actual sections of the Red Book seemed really interesting and seemed like they were something neat because they are going to be dynamic as far as the pricing moves.
Yeah.
And
well, we also added a lot of QR codes in the book. So if you wanted to find out more about early bust $half varieties, you can go to the QR code and dig a little deeper. So
that's going to be a really good addition.
Yeah, it'll need. There's a lot of things that you can go. Like the Red Book is for absolute. The beautiful thing about Red Book, it's for absolute beginners. And now we're going to actually make it so that even if you're a seasoned pro, you're going to want to have a Red Book within arm's length. Yeah. So it'll be for everybody.
That's awesome.
So the Red Book being the institution that it has been in this hobby.
Yes.
How intimidating was it for them to approach you about taking over for Ken Brissett?
Well, it wasn't. It was my taking over Ken Brissett was a decade-long apprentice program. So
Okay.
I started helping with pricing. Well, I did my first book I did was 100 Greatest Coins probably 20 years ago. And then later I did Encyclopedia Gold. And when I did Encyclopedia Gold, I priced all the coins. Then they said, hey, that's better pricing than what we have in Redbook. Can you help Ken Brissett? So I started this, probably at least a 15-year sort of like under his tutelage, working with him. And then he finally just, once he turned like 92, he was like, I really got to retire. So I just kind of took over as it, it wasn't like, hey, one day you want to do this job. It was more like I've been doing it really.
You've been doing
I've been doing it for over almost 10 years in one form or another. And I learned a lot. Ken Brissett's my oldest and greatest mentor. In 1974, when I was 16, I won a scholarship to summer seminar in Colorado Springs, and he was my instructor that year when I was 16. So he and I go way, way back, 50 years to be exact. So he's a great guy. And I put in this new book, the new edition, I did like a editor's preface that, there's decades that he invested in making that book have the integrity it has. And that really puts, to me, that's a big burden on my shoulders to make sure that, I don't want 5 years from now people say, oh, the Redbook went downhill. I want them to say it went uphill.
Yeah.
So I take a responsibility.
It is interesting with the QR codes too. People always say, "Oh, print's dead." The internet's taking its share, but this is kind of a really interesting hybrid. It has the online supplements to really dive deep into certain subjects or any subject. It sounds like. But and it still comes in that standard print form that's distributed everywhere. I mean, we were talking with John Feigenbaum about the distribution of the Redbook, and he says it's by far the largest distributed numismatic publication or work
hundreds
in the
of
world.
Thousands of copies a year,
and
and also Redbook. At Whitman Publishing is, to me, like if you meet somebody, like if you're like have a relative and say, hey, I want to start collecting coins. You give them a Redbook and you give them a Whitman folder, and that still has magic, and that works. It gets people going, and gets them going on their journey.
You say that the Redbook is kind of aimed at beginners. I think it's a research book, and I think it's aimed at a huge swath of coin collectors. And adding all this extra content is just going to make it a better research book.
I think my main goal is to make sure, like you mentioned earlier, is that you really don't feel that you bought one, you're good for 5 years. You really need to get one every year.
Right.
So that's my job now, is kind of more on content that I would really want to work on and put something new in it. And I like this new Redbook. I've got a chapter on misinformation in the coin business.
Oh my God!
Which is like I have a whole page on it.
You
so it's
could do
like,
an entire book on that.
Yeah, like bicentennial quarters really are not worth $50 million. So, but there's so much of that out there now, and no one's really put that out there for beginners.
And I'm sure that this with having a shop, the amount of time wasted by misinformation these days, whether it's your employees having to explain things to folks or on the phone, is tremendous in our industry. So I think that's a very interesting topic that we try to kind of focus on a lot too, because it's. We got to do our part to kind of tamp that down. If
and
we
sometimes
can help
it's not even misinformation. It's just hard for people to understand. Like, how could a 1964 Kennedy $50 sell for $50,000?
Right.
And it really did sell for $50,000. But the coin you have a roll of, that's not what those are.
Well, those didn't come from.
That's hard to explain
Ava
to people.
Adams' personal.
Right. But you have to explain that to people, and that's that information they need to know that where they begin on that.
I love that there's actually now a section of the Redbook dedicated to that.
Yep. Well, should be helpful.
But you're not just about the Redbook.
No.
You have another book that is pretty popular.
My proudest achievement in writing has been the 100 Greatest book. And the 100 Greatest Coins is...
Hold it up to the camera?
Here's a copy of it. It's a new edition of it. It's the 6th edition. It came out for the first time about 20 years ago.
And, I like what they've done with the cover.
And they've done a redesign. It's like Whitman Publishing has gotten involved in it, and they bought it. And they're the same book had looked the same for a long, long time. And the new edition is got a lot of new coins in it, and it's got 1933 double eagle on the cover, which one recently sold for over $18 million, which people say, and I say the reason I wrote this book, I go back and explain to people. I go to cocktail parties and I tell people I'm a coin dealer, and the first thing they ask you, what's the most expensive coin? What's the most expensive coin? Or the best coin you've ever handled or whatever, and I say, well, a coin sold for, in this case now, 18 million. And they say, well, how can that be? And it's because it has a good story.
Yeah.
It's the good, this coin has the best story of all time. And, you really can't they should make a movie of this. I mean,
it would be an interesting movie.
Yeah, and it's still going on. It's still an amazing story. So this one is, it's also been very impactful. Just last night, it was interesting. I was at an event with the P&G group and a bunch of YNs, and Greg Rohan, someone mentioned my book, The 100 Greatest Coins, And he said during the dinner that they're selling a collection. The last name is Sherman. The guy owns the Marlins down in Miami. And his collection, about 10 years ago, I think is in that ballpark. They sent these books out to all their clients. This guy got this book and said, I want one of every one of them.
Wow.
And the guy now has 50 or 60 of them. He's going to be auctioning at the Heritage Auction, and it's probably $20 or $30 million worth of coins.
Wow.
So, they think that it got a billionaire to buy coins.
You inspired
I'm pretty excited
somebody,
about that. Yeah, that's really a cool thing to have an impact like that. I don't think I'm getting a commission check, but other than that,
how many of the coins that are highlighted in this book have you actually personally owned?
I would say if I went through this book, and I would say I'll be owned about 3/4 of them.
Wow.
There's probably 5 or 10 coins that you can't own because they were in museums.
Certainly.
But I've owned pretty much most of the coins in the Redbook. I've been doing it for 50 years, so I've got pretty big experience with a lot of them. So, it still gets exciting when you have one.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest changes that I notice is the change from the coffee table book to the more
This
manageable
this
size.
one's 6x9, so they're doing it 6x9, and the reason they did that is because bookstores around the country, like Barnes and Noble, really don't have shelf space for a book this big. But this book they can put on their shelves, and that'll be like a good Christmas seller. So this is really made more for the masses, and it also retail customers are very price conscious.
Yes.
So this book could be in at $40, and this book could be in at $20-something. We'll make it that'll be a stocking stuffer, where this would be kind of a little more of an investment for people. So I'm really excited about the smaller format.
Yeah, well,
it looks beautiful.
We're actually right here, located right next to the Whitman booth, where they have those on display as kind of the coming soon or now available. And I can tell you the amount of people that I've watched walk up and look at the book, and especially
they
the
all
small
want to know
one.
where to buy it.
Right? Yeah, we've been asked about 10 times, where do I get this?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it's going to go over well.
And the cover treatment that they're doing with these, with adding the color and there's the glossy part of it just brings kind of life.
It pops out.
Yeah, it really pops.
It really pops out. So it'll be good. So I'm hoping that when these books is distributed next year, there'll be some people who decide they want to buy one of every coin again. There'll be more people,
My
or at least buy
goodness.
one of them.
Yeah,
So,
just even one, because it's an achievement for most of those.
Yeah, it'll be good.
So do you have anything new in the works that you can talk about?
Well, we got the next one I'll be working on, like starting next week, would be Blue Book. So the next edition of Blue Book will be coming out. It comes out a month or two after Redbook. So I'll be getting into that, and we'll be changing the content up for that a little bit. And then the one that I'm really like, I go to bed thinking about it all the time, and I got to get up and work on this one. Is I want to do a third edition of my Encyclopedia of U.S. Gold.
Ooh.
It's been about 10 or 15 years since the last one, and a lot's changed in the world of gold coins. Been a lot of hoards found. A lot of great collections have been sold. So that book sorely needs to be redone, and that's on my agenda. But it's just such a big job that it's I have a hard time finding the time. But I need to have John give me a deadline, and then I can get it done that way.
Are you one of those?
I'm definitely one of those.
Okay.
I'm definitely one of those. I work much better under pressure.
Okay.
So,
Me
for
too.
sure.
So that's why.
Otherwise,
it's
I
funny.
put it off.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people say they're working from home. When I get home, I'm working on my house. So,
Yeah.
so that's things like that.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. This book is probably one of my personal favorite books. It's just, you just open it, it's all
candy.
the drool material
It's
that
candy.
there is out there in the world, and it's a great one. So I'm really glad that they're giving it a treatment that it looks like it deserves.
Yeah. The stories are what makes it great. It's
Right.
a lot of good stories, and I like telling the stories.
Yeah,
We're big on stories too.
Yeah,
It's-
The stories are what got me into this as a kid. I'm sure all of us kind of remember the first time we really heard a cool story about a coin, and we're like, oh, wow. And then maybe gone out and got one, or
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely remember that.
Sometimes I think the best part of this hobby is the stories,
Yeah.
not even the coins.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I just recently did an episode on Pawn Stars with the 1933 Double Eagle.
I
I
did see
did
that.
see that.
I think people can see that somehow. Maybe go on YouTube or something.
It's
but it's
on
really
YouTube.
fun. Yeah, it's
It
a fun
is.
thing to watch. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and got to know Ian Russell from Great Collections. We had a lot of fun doing it together. And,
Yep.
It was they gave it a really big high treatment. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's one of the world's most valuable coins. How the heck
It
could they
is.
not give us?
Yeah, it was
give
fun.
it?
I think they touted it as the most valuable thing ever on Pawn Stars.
Well, that probably
So-
makes sense.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. So we had a lot of fun doing it, though.
Wow.
I can't see anybody taking a $20 million thing to a pawn shop. So
Yeah. He wasn't pawning it. We were,
Just playing around with it.
that's right. That's it.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for spending some time with us here at the show. Always a pleasure to see you here. You are one of the nicest people that we run into here. You're always willing to take a few minutes with us, so I really appreciate that.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it, and I look forward to next time you do one, I'll hopefully have a new project we can talk about.
That's the point. We love to get people
We would
on
love to
and-
have you back.
It sounds great. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jeff Garrett, everybody.